Each person is a unique and unrepeatable individual. We are also social beings who flourish in relationships. In this episode, we'll examine the interaction of our individual and social nature through our ability to work and create. We'll also examine how we cooperate, exchange, and trade with others. Humans are created as co-creators with God to complete creation, to steward it, cooperate with it, and improve it through the use of our reason. Farmers will tell you that wild trees and wild vines don't produce good fruit. Nature must be cultivated.
My name is Brian Hosmer. I'm a winemaker here at Chateau Chantal on Old Mission Peninsula in northwest Michigan, out in the middle of Grand Traverse Bay, where normally people don't think about growing grapes as something this far north in Michigan, but because of this water around us, it's something that we're able to do that you can't do much further one direction or the other. So we're in a very special place out here. And this water helps us buffer the temperatures so that when cold fronts or warm fronts come through, we are protected. The name of what we do explains everything. It's viticulture. So the first part is vita, which is Vitis vinifera, which are the European grape varieties that we know of. And then the other part is culture, which is the human interaction, where we are actually working with the vines to get them to do what we want them to do.
We're here in Palisade, Colorado. I was born here. My father was raised around the peach orchards. The microclimate here is unique to anywhere in Colorado. There's 5 or 6 areas that grow peaches in the United States. There's California, there's Georgia, obviously, there's Michigan, there's Idaho and Utah. And we have a unique situation, being 4,600 feet up in the air and being able to grow peaches. In order to raise peaches, we start in February. We go through the pruning process, and that lasts through the middle of March. And then we have what we call our stressful time, and that's our frost season. We have propane heaters, we have wind machines that we're all getting ready to go. Then the blossoms come out. And we go into the summertime, so that brings in the irrigation season because we're starting to have the hot weather and we're starting to have the peaches form after the blossoms if they make it through the frost. And then by July, we are starting harvest. A peach has to be picked twice. When we start out, this is all covered with blossoms. This branch will have up to 20 peaches on it. So then they have to go through and knock them off with their thumbs until you have just 2 or 3. And we leave about a hand's worth of spacing, as you can see. So they probably already picked, there was probably a peach right here. So there was 3 peaches on this branch. We have to go 7 days a week during harvest time. Usually harvest ends in September, and then we go through a period of maintenance. So basically we have to maintain all our tractors, all our trailers. We have semi-trucks and all of the packing line equipment that we use and everything else. So from September till January, that's our maintenance time. Then we start all over again. Back to pruning.
What happens in the vineyard just doesn't happen naturally. What we have is a situation where humans are coming in and manipulating the vines to get what we want. So what nature does give us is the sun and the soil and the plants, but we have to then harvest them and then take them into the cellar, which is where the next part of the process begins, the winemaking. After we harvest the fruit, we bring it in from the vineyard, we bring it in the cellar now, and we put it in the crusher to stemmer. And then when it's a red wine, we do one thing, and with a white wine, we go a separate direction. So for a red wine, we put it directly in the tank, and we ferment on the skins, and that's where we get a lot of the flavors and colors for red wine. Whereas a white wine, what we'll do is we'll press it immediately and put it into a tank and settle it out. Then what we do is then we inoculate it with the yeast. And this is the biological part and the natural part, in a sense, of where winemaking happens. So you have this yeast called Saccharomyces cerevisiae that converts sugar into alcohol and flavors and CO2, and so you know fermentation is going on. And after that fermentation is when we have wine. Winemaking is essentially controlled rot, because one of the things that winemakers say is that God makes vinegar, we make wine.
Nature is chaotic. Man has to tame it and order it. There's also what's called the law of entropy. Things fall apart over time. If you let something go, it returns to the wild.
So the second law of thermodynamics is entropy. So everything is always moving towards chaos. And so what we have is we're essentially trying to control and guide this chaotic situation into something that people can enjoy.
Peach trees do live naturally out in the wild, but they don't live very long. Typically on a farm, a peach tree lasts about 20 years. A peach tree out in the wild, once it starts producing, it'll probably kill itself in about 4, because there would be so much fruit on the tree that it just saps the life right out of it.
So if you were just to let these vines grow wild, what would happen is after a couple of years, they would stop fruiting. And this is because there's no stress put onto them where they would feel the need to create seeds to pass their genes along to the next generation. So we are constantly cutting it back, and in making it stressed and making it want to produce fruit.
We also cooperate with nature by using our intellect and creativity to transform matter into usable things. Iron and carbon into steel to build machines, petroleum into gasoline and plastic, silicon for cement and computer chips, and trees for lumber to build houses and barns. If we think about it, building a house takes 2 creations. First, there's the mental work of design and planning. Second, comes the physical work of actually building the structure. Man doesn't just create with his hands, but with his creative mind. Just as we cooperate with nature, we also cooperate with each other. We are social beings, and no man is sufficient unto himself. We're designed to live in community, and through interaction with others, we realize our needs and take care of ourselves. Through work, we earn our daily living, but we do more. Through work, we realize our vocation to serve others and build civilization and culture. Each person is unique and unrepeatable, with different skills, talents, and interests. And this combination of our individuality with our social nature means that humans accomplish more when we work together, divide tasks, and engage in trade. This leads to an important economic principle. It's called the mutual benefit of trade. Trade is when 2 people decide to exchange some good or service for another. Trade enables people to get something they want or need without having to make it or grow it themselves. Because of specialization in trade, people can enjoy a wide variety of goods and services that they wouldn't be able to do otherwise. As long as people are not coerced, trade is mutually beneficial. It makes both parties better off than they were before. Otherwise, they wouldn't engage in trade. Nowadays, we rarely barter. Instead, we use money. Yet the principle is the same. One of the mistakes we often make when we think about trade is to view it as a win-lose proposition instead of mutually beneficial. This is the idea that success can only come at the expense of others. For every winner, there must be a loser. This is the fallacy called the zero-sum game, where we imagine the economy as a pie. And if one person has a bigger piece, that leaves a smaller piece for someone else. While this is sometimes the case, it's not the general rule. The problem with the zero-sum game is that it fails to acknowledge the mutual benefit of trade and that the pie can grow. As productivity increases, or as new inventions or innovations take off, the pie can expand This means that everyone's share can get bigger, and this is what we call economic growth. Over the last 250 years, we've seen the pie grow at a rate unmatched in history. In fact, in just the last 30 years, we've seen life expectancy double and the poverty rate cut in half across the globe. Of course, a growing pie doesn't mean that things are perfect and that everyone benefits equally. We still have issues with global volatility, technological disruption, pollution, and poverty and exclusion resulting from crony capitalism and corrupt regimes. These are all problems that we must address, but to do so well, we need to avoid the fallacy of the zero-sum game. At its core, trade is a human relationship, and that's what markets are, networks of human relationships, where people interact with one another to obtain goods and services that they want or need. We like to talk about the market, but the market is really a collection of lots of different markets. There are markets for nearly everything: food, clothes, coffee, fish, oil, and electricity. There are even markets for stocks, which are ownership interests in companies selling all these things. As we've all witnessed, markets are not perfect, and they come with many cultural and social challenges. Markets cannot address every social need, and just because there's a market for something doesn't mean it's okay. Markets must always be guided by moral principles. Authentic community requires much more than economic exchange. It requires families, churches, politics, voluntary associations, and love and friendship that make moral demands on us and encourage us to live well. But economic exchange, trade, and markets are indispensable parts of a flourishing society, and the foundations of markets come from our social and individual nature and the mutual benefit of trade.